Well, we are really, really happy that you are still here, because it's been a long, long day, and I'm really thankful that you are here, and I'm thankful that Yadin, you made it, because the road has been blocked, and it's quite a challenge, but you made it despite all. And I will start with Robert, because Robert, when he was in the Knesset, and you were there for 13 years, you basically passed the law in the Knesset for the Aliyah Day. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it seems like a very simple law, but it's very symbolic and very important law for Israel, because since the last 75 or 80 years, to Israel made Aliyah more than 3.4 million Jews. And nobody talk about it. Informal organization in the government, in the Knesset, in the army, in the schools. You know, it's very short presentation about Aliyah in schools, and they speak about historical Aliyah before the establishing of the State of Israel. But the millions, the huge numbers of people came after establishing the State of Israel. So this is the strategic difference before and after Aliyah. So in 70s and 50s and after the World War II, it was very short things, and but it's very symbolic for the State of Israel. So we decided to do something, and we decided to do it formal. And we want to speak about Aliyah in the government, officials, organizations, in the army, in the schools, and to explain what the importance of the Aliyah for the Jewish state, what the importance of economy for the Israeli economy, for the situation of demographics. You know, then I came to Israel in 1985. Everybody talked that it's going to be a huge problem of demographics, and our population will be the majority in several years. And suddenly in 80s, it's changed. More than 1 million people came in 3-4 years, and it's changed. The changes was everywhere, not only demographic, the defense, the people went to the army, it's high tech. It was huge numbers of engineers, huge numbers of doctors, huge numbers of researchers, huge numbers of all. So it gave very strong push of economy. So everybody in the streets, if you ask what's happened with the big Aliyah of Soviet Union, former Soviet Union Jews, everybody says, yes, it's very important, but nobody gives to this any sense in any place. So we decided to put it on the table of the Knesset and to make it a law, to speak about Aliyah, not only about Soviet Union Aliyah or something special. We are talking about all Aliyah, from the beginning of Aliyah, from the first Aliyah in 19th century, end of the 19th century. So it's very important to explain all the steps of that and how this all this process of return of Jews to their states influenced to the Jewish state.
So what year was it that the law was passed?
Oh, I don't remember the year.
Google it and tell him.
But it took 2 terms.
Okay.
It not was. I started in. I think it was the Knesset 18th, and a law passed in 20th. I think so, but it doesn't matter. It's on.
So basically, the law
on the schedule.
The law is telling the schools and the education system and the army to
in the Knesset
to talk about Aliyah and to commemorate the day of Aliyah and to remember this day and to celebrate it.
Yeah, it's not celebration like a holiday, but yes, it's very important to celebrate it, to mention, to explain to the children's, in the children garden we can speak about it, in the schools, to explain that the majority of almost all the people who was born in Israel, their parents or grandparents or grandparents are made Aliyah, and somebody came from Africa, and somebody came from United States, and somebody came from Europe, and because of anything. But it's very important to explain why it's happened, why this process happened. For example, we don't speak about that enough. What's happened with Aliyah from Muslim countries? 900,000 people was a refugee in one day after the war, independence war. So we have to explain that it was almost 1 million refugees, Jewish refugees. Then, on the other hand, was 500,000 Palestinian refugees. And today we have almost 6 or 7 million refugees, Palestinian refugees, and 0 Jewish refugees.
Because they all became Israeli citizens.
So we have to speak about it everywhere.
Absolutely. Now, I want your attention for a second. I know that it's afternoon and it's this moment that you want to look in your little screen and see what's in the news. There is something that we need to point out. God said in His Word, I will bring you from all the nations and I will take you back to this land. I wish Israeli government reads it every morning.
I wish so too.
In the morning and in the evening.
And in the evening.
I wish so too. Albert, with your permission, I want to take 1 minute.
Please, you have it.
We are almost 8 months after October 7th. And Robert mentioned the importance of the Aliyah that brought researchers and professors. And we still have 132 Israelis that are kidnapped in the Gaza. Some of them are also made Aliyah in recent years. And also when you look at the names of the soldiers that were killed and are getting killed in the war, there is a much larger percentage of immigrants among them than the percentage in the general population. And I hope everybody will take a minute to pray for the return of all the people
hostages.
who are, of all the hostages, yes.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
We all have friends there, I mean.
It's a pain we carry every day. Now, we are talking about Aliyah. We have been working with you in cooperation with your law office, Yadin, for more than 7 years now, in order to help those who get in some kind of bureaucratic troubles, and there are many that are in these troubles. And the way how we started working with Global Aliyah, and you can Google this one. Try Googling something different now, okay? Google globalaliyah.org. Look what comes up, and then you will find the organization that we are talking about. Global Aliyah started with Leah Shem Tov. She was Knesset member, and she was the head of the chairwoman of the Aliyah committee. And she said, there are people that are falling between the chairs, and we need to help them because the government will not help them. And then the war broke out in Ukraine, and then suddenly we had a flood of Ukrainian Jews coming with the little plastic bag, with their passport in that bag, with their home shoes, because they fled the war in Ukraine. And they came to the Israeli government offices and said, we are refugees. And then the answer was,
prove that you are eligible to come to Israel under the law of return, or go back.
Go back. And then they said, we don't have a status of refugee. You need to prove that you are eligible to make Aliyah. And so suddenly we had this.
Yeah,
this
you're
challenge.
talking about 2014, that
14, 15,
when the
16.
first war started.
Exactly.
They were better now, I think. The government in the current Ukrainian war was more generous, but still not generous enough.
Yeah, but we face a challenge, because I mean, it looks like Israel as a nation is welcoming Aliyah. Robert, you passed a law about Aliyah, and yet when people go to the Ministry of Interior, they face a whole other reality. Why is it?
Well, because for a few reasons. First of all, I don't think that Israel per se encourage Aliyah anymore. I'm sorry to say that. Israel encourage Aliyah of immigrants from some countries, but not from all countries. And I think that we are dealing mainly with people from the former Soviet Union who have more difficulties than people from other countries, because, for example, in the former Soviet Union, they didn't know about religion.
No.
And many people were not officially married to each other. And then when somebody comes and say, I want to make an Aliyah because my father was a Jew, they tell him, oh yes, this person that you claim is your father was indeed a Jew, but your parents were not married, so how do we know that he is your father?
So what do you do?
So this always sounds ridiculous to our American friends when I tell them that in Israel you can only do DNA tests through a court order. You cannot just send your saliva to a company in the US and they will tell you if you are related to the person you claim is your father. So they have to file a court case in Israel while they are in the Ukraine under bombing, and then get a court order for DNA testing, and then send DNA tests from the consulate in Kiev to Israel. They don't know how to do it, they don't have money, and that's why they are contacting Global Aliyah.
Well, and then they are facing actually a reality. They go to apply for the citizenship, they meet the consul, and the consul says, as you said, yeah, this person who you claim to be your father is a Jew, but who are you?
Yes.
We don't know who you are. And from 2018, Israel has actually a new policy of this DNA testing, and they say, yes, you can make Aliyah if you can prove a relationship to a known Jewish person.
Yes, and we have to realize that sometimes the father is no longer alive. So you cannot do DNA test between the child and the father. And then you need to look for other relatives. Or people don't know that if, for example, if you were born outside the marriage and then the parents got married and you have a sister and the father is no longer alive, you have only 25% success in proving the relationship, if it's a boy and a girl.
So basically what Global Aliyah is doing is that we help those people. Let's say you have a situation, and I highly recommend those who need to make Aliyah and want to make Aliyah, number one, and they have these obstacles. They have not enough documents. They have not enough proof for their eligibility of making Aliyah, to contact Global Aliyah, because Global Aliyah has been helping for helping these people to pay the legal costs. Because I mean, I remember those days when these poor Ukrainians had just come in a battle shock, arrived to Israel, and they find out that they need $20,000 to make Aliyah.
Yes.
Have you heard about this, that you need $20,000 to make Aliyah? Well, there are cases that this is the amount that people need to pay for certain law offices.
Not for
Not
our
for you.
work, yes.
Because we have an agreement and we have been working with you for 7 years.
Yes, and also, I mean, this is something that I think will be extremely surprising for our friends here and the people who are watching us. Sometimes the problem of a person whose father is Jewish to make an Aliyah is not as difficult as the problem of somebody whose mother is Jewish. Now you would ask me, yeah, but we all know who your mother is. You don't need to prove. You don't have DNA testing. What is the problem? Well, the problem is that if your father is Jew, under the Jewish halacha, under the Jewish law, you are not a Jew. But if your mother is Jewish, you yourself are a Jew. And then when you apply to make an Aliyah, they ask you, what religion are you? And people in the former Soviet Union don't know, as we said, nothing about religion. And they said, what do we write here?
I know cases.
And they asked them, have you ever been to a church? And they said, yes. And they said, so write Christian. Once they write Christian, they say you cannot make Aliyah because you're not a Jew. And if it was your father, it wouldn't matter, because you can be a Christian and still make Aliyah.
I know cases where people thought, okay, I come from Ukraine, and Ukraine is a Christian country, so what should I write? I write Christian.
Yes.
And so they get blacklisted, and they get in trouble that they cannot get out on their own. And so it's very hard also to prove in such cases what was the intent of the person who wrote this. But you've been very helpful.
I'm trying.
Now we are facing, actually this, I mean, it's almost shameful to say this, but we are facing sometimes hostility, not just sometimes, it's a pure hostility from the side of the Ministry of Interior. You have to take them to the court, Supreme Court, to even talk to them.
Yes.
Because they will not answer you. You will send letters, you will send letters, you will send letters, and then you will send more letters and no answer.
And you have to go to court, and you know, I thought that you are going to say something else that you are ashamed about, which is that since 2017, when we started to work together, I think there is a decline in the cases that Global Aliyah can take, and it's not because Global Aliyah has huge salaries and a lot of workers, or because I increased my fees. It's because there are less donations due to COVID in the beginning and other things, and we can help many more people to make Aliyah. And I know that you get a lot of calls from people that you cannot help because there are no funds to help them.
Yeah, funding is absolutely crucial for this kind of work, and to be honest, we have no money coming from the government. We tried so many times even to get the government to pay people back the DNA test costs. And we asked Oded Forer from your former party to talk to the General Director of the Ministry of Aliyah, and I hoped, that he will come back to me with some kind of a positive answer and say, well, okay, we have a deal. Those people who had to pay for their DNA tests will get a special amount of money back so that they can at least, be supported in this way. Yes. You know what was the answer of Oded Forer? I'm sorry to say, people, this is the moment that I'm ashamed of my country. Oded Forer said there was nobody there to talk to. The director of the Ministry of Aliyah and Absorption.
Yes.
A Knesset member is asking for help, and there was no help available.
Albert, we are now 85 years after the beginning of the Second World War, and I told you before we enter just that I want our friends to understand the magnitude of the problem. First of all, I was amazed to find out that 85 years after the beginning of the Second World War, there are less Jews in the world still than there were in 1939. We didn't overcome the Holocaust in sheer numbers of Jews. And second, that we are talking about the gathering of the exiles, but in Israel, we have only about a third of the Jews in the world. Most of them are still living abroad. Most of them still need to make Aliyah, so we still have a lot of work.
But you see, you talked about this, that United States has most of them. Robert,
yes.
I remember you also were part of this Knesset research that you made about the US Jewish population. When the Jews from the United States of America want to make Aliyah, they will face the very same problems, because many have been in marriages that we call intermarriage. You have many who have been born out of wedlock, and they will, if the Aliyah wave will come, and I believe the Aliyah wave will come, and I know that there are several people here in the crowd who would heartily not just agree with me, because they have been praying for years and years and years for this Aliyah to come to pass. But when they will make Aliyah, they will face a bureaucratic reality that will scare them.
Even worse, by the way, than the people from the Soviet Union, because in the Soviet Union they used to write
in the passport.
In the passport and in the birth certificate, they used to write the religion of the
not
parents.
Religion, no.
Not religion, the
nationality. And if you had Jew written in your passport, it was the fifth line, Jew, then it was a big problem. So many people had to hide it, and they paid money, bribed, and said, I am not Jewish.
But in the US, which is a secular state, they don't write religion. So when people from the US want to make Aliyah, they have trouble to prove that they are Jewish. They tell them, okay, bring a letter from your synagogue,
rabbi.
From your rabbi, but if they don't belong to a synagogue or...
Please. And you saw it, Robert. I remember you said that the numbers are really not good.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about that, and the government don't know the real numbers, and they're always trying to make some research, but I asked them, from 1985, then I left the Soviet Union. In the United States lives 6 million, more than 6 million Jews. Since then, from Israel and from former Soviet Union and from Europe and from South Africa and from Brazil and Mexico and everywhere, Jews came to the United States, and we still have less than, now we have 6 million or less than 6 million. How it possible? It's impossible, because it's almost 3 million people came to the United States in these almost 40 years. So what's happened to the Jews? It was another Shoah, 3 million people? So nobody couldn't tell me what's happened and where all these Jews live. because they trying to explain that they can understand only by how many Jews came to the community and how many Jews declare in some places that they are Jews, and that 2 million of these 6 million are not going to Jewish community. So I asked them, so if they will decide to make Aliyah, what will happen? How we will solve the problem? If we don't know who have the right, it's 6 million Jews. So if they married, and we know that in the United States more than 50
marriage is very high
50%, more than 50% intermarriage. So their kids can make Aliyah. So how many people? What we have to do? How we can planning? How we can financing that? If even 10% will decide, how we will find them that they are Jews, that they can make Aliyah? Nobody have the question, the answers.
Yeah. Well, our time is really running out here, and we are actually asking for your help and your prayers for Aliyah, for those who need to make Aliyah, and we would absolutely encourage and ask you to support the work of Global Aliyah, because the way how it works from our side is that people, when they need to make Aliyah, they face a problem, realize that it costs them a lot of money, and then they will need help. And Global Aliyah is the only organization basically that subsidizes, helps these legal costs, and not only that, provides help. There are people like Daud Godowski, who is, with his knowledge and expertise, is able to guide the person through this maze of bureaucracy. And then, of course, you, Yadin, come into the picture with your legal expertise.
Yes, and I want to encourage people who would like to make Aliyah to contact Global Aliyah before they encounter problems, because sometimes the problems can be avoided if you consult with the right people before you apply.
It is really true. And so in any case, when you know people that want to make Aliyah, they need to contact us. They need to just go to the website www.globalaliyah.org and click on contact us. It's really easy. It's not difficult. But I can tell you one thing. Once you need to go to the Supreme Court, how much would it cost then to solve your problems?
If through us, or if you go to a
No, not through us.
At least $20,000.
See, so you want to save $20,000? Contact Global Aliyah. You want to give $20,000? Also contact Global Aliyah. Thank you so much. I think it was really important to come to talk. Yadin, I'm sure that there are people here in the audience that would want to talk to you. I know Frank is here, who wants to definitely talk with you, and many others. And so thank you so much. You made a difficult journey through the blocked streets from Tel Aviv. And you made it.
I cannot get out anyhow, so.
So you stay for the dinner. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Yadin.
Toda.